Mr. Walter was an old man with silver hair. He lived alone near Lake Shasta in California. Every morning he liked to go fishing on the lake. His best friend was Max, a brown and white dog who never left his side. One peaceful morning, the sun was rising, and the lake water looked green and calm. Walter made his usual fishing preparations. He packed his fishing rods, some bait, and a pot of hot coffee. Max followed him happily. They got into their small wooden boat. Max curled up beside Walter, listening to the sounds of nature. Walter slowly rowed the boat away from the dock, heading to the middle of the lake. That was his favorite fishing spot. As he dropped his line into the water, everything felt quiet and calm. Max stood up, sniffed the air, and looked around. His ears twitched, and he seemed excited by the smells of the morning. Walter closed his eyes and took a deep breath of the fresh air. He didn't know that this peaceful trip was about to change his life. Suddenly, Max began barking loudly. He stood up, staring into the distance. Walter opened his eyes, confused by Max's sudden behavior. Then, without warning, Max jumped to the front of the boat and leaped into the water. "Max, come back here!" Walter shouted, shocked. But Max was already swimming fast, heading towards something floating on the water. Walter tried to row the boat in the same direction. He soon saw a small animal struggling in the waves. It was a squirrel. The tiny creature looked scared and weak. It was barely able to keep its head above water. Max reached the squirrel and gently turned around, lowering his head into the water. The squirrel somehow understood and climbed onto Max's head, holding on tightly. Walter's eyes filled with tears. He watched as Max swam back toward the boat with the squirrel clinging to him. Walter leaned over and picked up the trembling, wet animal. He wrapped the squirrel in a towel, trying to warm it up. Then he pulled Max back into the boat. All three were now safe, but the squirrel was not out of danger yet. Its tiny chest was moving up and down heavily, and its eyes were half closed. Walter started the boat and rowed back to shore faster than ever. Once he reached land, he rushed to his truck, carrying the squirrel in his arms. Max jumped into the back seat, eyes fixed on the little creature. Walter drove straight to the nearest veterinary clinic. When he arrived, he shouted, "Help! I found a drowning squirrel." A young woman named Amy came running. She was the local vet. She quickly took the squirrel and placed it on a table. She checked its heart rate and lungs. "It's taken in a lot of water," she said, "but I'll do my best." Walter and Max stood quietly, watching her work. Amy gently removed the water from the squirrel's lungs. Then she placed it in a small incubator, giving it oxygen and warmth. Walter stood still, silently hoping the squirrel would survive. After 2 long hours, Amy came out and smiled. "He's going to be okay," she said. Walter felt tears run down his face. He held the little creature, who now opened his eyes slightly. Amy gave instructions on how to take care of him, what to feed him, how to monitor his breathing, and how to keep him warm. Walter gently placed the squirrel in a small basket with a soft towel inside. He thanked Amy and left the clinic with Max beside him. Back at home, Walter placed the squirrel near the fireplace to keep it warm. Max sat nearby. Walter mixed a little warm milk and fed the squirrel using a small straw. The squirrel drank slowly, holding Walter's finger with his tiny paws. Walter named him Nugget because to him, the little squirrel was a treasure. Over the next few days, Nugget grew stronger. He started climbing on Walter's shoulder and running around Max's legs. Walter even built him a small wooden house in the backyard, up in a tree. It had stairs, a roof, and straw inside for warmth. Nugget loved the little house. Every morning he would climb down using a rope and jump onto Max's back. They would play tag on the lawn while Walter laughed and took pictures. Walter taught Nugget some hand signals for eating and resting. Max always waited patiently for Nugget to eat before he ate his own food. Walter said, "I thought I was just going fishing that day, but I ended up bringing home a miracle. Now they go on walks together, ride in the boat, and even go fishing again. Nugget never goes into the water but wags his tail when they reach the lake. He always sits on Max's head, his favorite spot. Every time guests visit, Walter tells the story, how Max jumped into the lake to save a life. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us bring you more beautiful stories.